What is the basic routine every day at the camp, and has it changed from when you started now, or compared to now?
Yes, it has changed quite a lot as we figured out how to do it better and got feedback from parents about the things that they liked. So the basic routine now, as you probably remember, is we have the volunteers come about a half hour before, and we keep all the equipment we need in the shed so it doesn't clutter up the gym, and we get everything out and start to get it all ready. Mary and I, before, maybe an hour before, will sit down and decide what we want, the skills we want to work on in the little rooms that we do. And they, we're working on breaking down throwing skills, catching skills, and batting or hitting. And then as the kids get a little better, we can work on like actually using their gloves and fielding or bending down to pick up a ball and aiming when you're throwing. And then we also had to realize a lot of our kids didn't even have a basic understanding of like where the bases are and what's first, second, or third. And so we had to start teaching them, that's first base, you run there first, you stop, then you run to second, you have to touch the base. I mean, some really basic stuff that you would assume most kids would know, but these are kids who don't get exposed to a lot of movement or games or whatever. I mean, some of them know and they've watched it on TV with their parents, but some of them really haven't. So the way it works is once the kids start to show up, we bring them in and have them rotate through our stations. And that's where we need a lot of volunteers to run each station. And Mary and I try and usually stay free, or at least one of us will, to help rotate the kids, make sure every kid hopefully gets through each station if they show up on time. But a lot of times the kids are trickling in, and if they come late, they may only get to do one station. And we would do that for the first 30 minutes. Then we gather all the kids up and we walk out to where the field is that we use. And depending on how challenging that long of a walk is, some kids can choose to use their wheelchairs then to go out so they won't be too tired when they get out there. And then we divide them into teams. And what we used to do, well, we didn't used to have as many stations. And then what we used to do is always just make 2 teams, no matter how big they were. And you might have 8 to 10 kids on a team. And we found that the kids on the bench would get restless and bored. And if there was too many kids in the field, they didn't all get to touch the ball. And that was really hard because the kids who are a little more physical or a little more aggressive or more able to move to the ball tended to get all the balls. So this year was the first year that we decided to make a third group. And our OTs, our occupational therapists, were wonderful and agreed to do oral motor skills. A lot of our kids have oral motor issues where they drool or don't have a lot of awareness around their mouth. And since baseball involves chewing and spitting, at least professional baseball, we decided to include an oral motor station, which also gave the kids a chance to sit in the shade, get out of the sun, and rest, because the field's very much in the sun, and a lot of the kids get overheated really easily. So then we would have less kids in the field, maybe only 5 or 6, and less kids batting, so they'd go through the batting lineup faster. And we would try and rotate and get both groups through twice and do at least 2 innings if we could before we ran out of time. So, am I forgetting anything about how we ran it? That was our basic structure, right?
Yeah.
And then we always ended with popsicles, if we could, or some kind of treat. And a lot of the parents this last year started, actually, not even this summer, the summer before, a lot of parents started saying, oh, can we bring something for the end of the game for the treat? And that was really nice because then it didn't have to be. And the thing about the popsicles or even fruit platters is we do have some kids who have issues around what they can and can't eat. So we would have to know which kids those were and make sure we didn't hand them something they weren't allowed to have or buy them their special, like Andrew had to have a special popsicle.
Yes.
Yeah. So stuff like that. So anyway, when you're working with kids with special needs, it's not as easy as working with kids who don't have special needs. And you really have to be on your game the whole time because you don't want them to ever get hurt.
Yeah.
So that's kind of, I think, how it evolved. It's become a little more complicated, which means, again, needing more help, more volunteers.
All right. Do you think the kids who attend the camp gain skills other than just how to play t-ball, like communication skills, maybe?
Oh, I could say, what do you think? But you want me to answer that, right?
I do want you to.
I think they do. I know they do. One of the big reasons we wanted to do this camp wasn't even about teaching them t-ball skills necessarily, although the kids who learn them really enjoy them. But it was about getting a group of kids together that fall in this in-between area and really need to know each other. And I think the parents really get to meet other parents of kids who are high-functioning enough that they should have their own teams and their own friends, but they can't quite mainstream in with regular kids for regular sports. And I think it's been wonderful, and they recognize each other when they come in for therapy other times and be like, that's so and so from T-ball, and they make their little friendships that way, and they remember each other. And the other thing they get out of it, which I just love, is a family dynamic of, so most of these kids have siblings.
Yeah.
Who are regular kids who play sports, and they're always the ones having to sit with their parents and watch their brother or sister play baseball or play basketball, and they're always on the sidelines watching.
Mm-hmm.
And this is the opportunity, and a lot of the parents will bring their siblings, and now they're the ones playing and waving at their parents and their brother and sister because they're the ones being watched, and they love that. They love having their parents and their siblings up, finally watching them take their turn doing their sport. So I think it's a big confidence boost for them, and they really enjoy being able to learn the sport and not feel pressured to recognize they're not the worst one, they're not holding anyone else up. Everyone's kind of at the same level, really. I mean, there's a mix, but they're all mixed in within the same thing, and so it's a socialization activity almost more than it is a sport camp, I think. It's kind of about giving them their moment.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So I was going to say, you kind of saw that.
Yeah. You want to take a break?
Sure.
Okay.